Hey guys, it's Gunthug, and while we are all enjoying our nice mid-season break, I thought I would bring you guys a little commentary. By now, you've probably opened your eyes and you know which match I decided to speak over this week to try to give some insight into. I chose my match. I don't like doing my matches sometimes because I have a tendency, as most people do, to retroactively pretend as if I did things for a reason which in the heat of the moment it may not have been for that reason. You know, it's like 2020 hindsight. And when you're watching your own match, you can be like, oh well, I did this for this reason, and it ends up working out that way. But you already know the result of it. So I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and do my match anyways, though, because I did think it was a good match, and I did want to point out that there was one very pivotal moment in the match. Well, a lot happened in the match with regards to RNG. I think at the end of the day, it was pretty even. I got one particular crit that I think saved the game for me, whereas he got a couple freezes that otherwise would have put it away. But I think that there's one quintessential event in this match that determines how the rest of the match is going to play out. And if it had gone wrong for me, I likely would have lost. So, let's go ahead and dive right in, and you guys will be the judge of that. Let's see, we'll go normal speed. Okay, so right off the bat, Btooom is a very active, and first I just want to say Btoom's a great player. Btooom is a very active DPP player on the ladder. And so I've faced him many times on various alts and even sometimes on Gunthug. I think we're probably 50-50 on when I'm playing him as Gunthug. But he leads with this Flow a lot. Now he does have other heat rans named Flow, but this particular Flow is a choice specs lead heat ran with overheat. And I've seen that overheat absolutely decimate anything that tries coming in on it. And it's scary. It's genuinely scary. I countered with my own Infernape. This is actually my new favorite lead set, I think. It is 4 attack Infernape. Doesn't have rocks. It's Focus Sash. And so it is almost guaranteed. I just think it's a very efficient anti-lead because it can hit with either one of 2 extremely high base power stabs in overheat and close combat. It is guaranteed to survive that first hit unless, double hit moves, something like Bone Meringue, Marowak, I don't know. I don't think that's used. But and it's got Fake Out to break Sash. It's got Mach Punch to finish off Pokemon who weren't able to break their Sash or to get another hit in after you die. It's just a really nice lead Pokemon. So we'll go ahead and see what happens here. He's gonna hard switch into Rotom, which is a good call. Even if Infernape is carrying some sort of coverage move that can kill Rotom, it's not going to use it on Heatran. Usually Fire is the move that Infernape carries that can touch Heatran, or sorry, not Heatran, Rotom. So I'm not going to Fire move on a Heatran. He probably expected me to Stealth Rock there or even Fake Out because that's what a lot of lead Infernapes do. So I went for the close combat. I was just looking to take the Heatran down right away because I knew that he wasn't carrying a Sash or anything like that. I knew it's spec, so I could have one-hit KO'd him. So he's going to force me out here. I'm going to Jirachi, which he is immediately going to Thunder Wave. This is a very common strategy by Btooom. I'm not going to call it cheap. He's using the strengths of the meta to his advantage. And in Gen 4, Paralysis is absolutely meta defining because you have things like Iron Head Jirachi, and you got a plethora of really strong substitute attackers who present quite a threat when their enemy is losing turns every 3 out of every 10, which sometimes feels like 6 out of every 10. So I'm still able to get rocks off. One thing you'll notice is that there's a pretty glaring lack of paralysis hacks in this match. Overall, I get pretty lucky with paralysis. So I'm going to find out that my Fire Punch specially defensive Jirachi is not going to be able to break sub with Fire Punch. He's just going to do some damage. He's going to get another Thunderbolt off here. You can see how bulky this specially defensive Jirachi is, though, taking 20% from that Thunderbolt. I'm finally going to break the sub. I know he's just going to sub again because he knows that he can stomach a Fire Punch. So I'm going to go to Hippo. Hippo comes in. It's a specially defensive Hippo. And he's gonna, I've got the tools on this Hippo to dispose of substitute attackers. I'm not really that afraid of a Will-O-Wisp since he already Thunder Waved. Most Rotom don't carry double status. In fact, I think in the chat at some point I said you wouldn't go double status, would you? I've seen Rotoms carry both Will-O-Wisp and Thunderbolt. It's not unviable. It can work. I was banking on that not being the case here, and I'll confirm that here when he just shadow balls me. He does get a crit there, and then in the long run, I don't really think it matters. Oh, here it is. You wouldn't double status. In the long run, I don't really think the crit matters. I'm healing back up constantly on this hippo, so I wasn't too upset about that. But he's going to bring in Swampert. I'm looking at my team and thinking, okay, I don't really have a lot of good Swampert switch-ins. I do have a Pokemon that can certainly threaten Swampert, but it doesn't like to come in on him. And so you'll see that right here, as I know he's trying to get rocks up at this point. I know he's probably not going to Ice Beam. At 50% health, Hippo isn't going to go down to a weak in an uninvested Ice Beam from a Swampert. Maybe if he had a stab water move like Hydro Pump, he might have fired one off there, but not a lot of worry about me bringing this Shaman in. And the Shaman is immediately, yeah, of course, I got the predict right. I knew he was going to do rocks, and so I was able to get Shaman in relatively for free. All right, and so he is going to bring in Heatran here on a Seed Flare. This Seed Flare is pretty devastating, and this miss actually helps me out quite a bit here. I'll show you why. So I come in, and I take Sandstorm Tick, and there is no recovery. I talked to you guys last week a little bit about paying attention to post-move damage and items. I'm not holding leftovers at that point, so I could be choiced, either Scarf or Specs, both viable on Shaman, or I could be Life Orb, and he doesn't know that at this point. When he goes to Heatran and I miss this Seed Flare, he still doesn't know what my item is. It could be Scarf, or it could be Life Orb. Not a lot of people run Specs Shaman, but certainly you have to respect it. Anyways, as you kind of see here, I throw a little, I don't know what that was for. Oh, that wasn't because of this. Okay. That was back, I think that was back when I had Vacuum Wave on Lucario against Sweet, is when I winked at him right before I made my move. I never like to telegraph a move, so I wouldn't have winked here knowing I had the Earth Power advantage. But this is what I was referring to earlier when I said that there was one moment in the game that defined how the rest of the match would play. Most people, without having seen anything from this lead Heatran, would assume that it was Scarf. Well, or maybe not most people, but it is certainly not uncommon to see a lead Heatran that is Scarfed, okay? And so at this point, if I hadn't played Btooom in the past, I may have thought that this was a Scarfed Heatran, in which case it would have just decimated my Shaman with Fire Blast, barring a miss. I risked it. I knew that he was likely Specs because I've seen him use this before, and I went for the powerful Life Orb Earth Power. An Earth Power that he may not have known I was capable of using since he didn't know my item. If that Seed Flare had hit him, he would have known I was Life Orb. He would have known that he did not outspeed and that I was not locked into a move, and he may not have taken the Earth Power. Crit did not matter there. It very easily kills a Heatran at 4 times damage. So I'm immediately able to get rid of a Pokemon that, quite frankly, really threatens my team. As you'll see, as my last 2 Pokemon are revealed, that Heatran definitely would have chipped away at anything that tried to switch in on it. And so I was very lucky to get rid of it when I did. He's going to go to his Jirachi from here. I could have slammed it with a pretty nice Earth Power there. It probably does about 55 to 60% or so. Maybe not even that much, maybe like 50%, because as you saw earlier, Special Defensive Jirachi has quite a lot of bulk. But I'm going to bring in Hippo. Hippo's a pretty safe switch on most Jirachi, especially Spadef Hippo, because it can even phase Calm Mind Jirachi, and it can't be Thunder Waved. So that's why I was careful to include a Hippo going into a match with Btooom, because I know it's just a pretty nice blanket Jirachi check, and it can't really fall too victim to the flinch hacks, as we're about to see. We'll get the 20% there on the Iron Head. He's going to get the first flinch. I'm going to heal just up back over 20%, which means if he gets another flinch here, my Hippo dies. Unfortunately, he's not able to land the flinch. I'm able to get the slack off, and he will go to Breloom for a chance to set up this nasty monster. Man, playing against Breloom is so difficult. It's just, it forces you to be on your toes. You can, it's not like one of those other Pokemon where if you mess up, you can lose a Pokemon. Breloom's the kind of Pokemon where if you mess up, you can lose 2 or 3 Pokemon trying to rectify your mistake. So I was very careful here to calculate where I was going to go on this Spore, which is usually the first move. And I'm going to go to Jirachi because Jirachi's already paralyzed. So if he had tried to Cold Spore there without getting a sub off, he would have been he would have been foiled. He wouldn't have gotten the sub off, and he wouldn't have been able to get the spore off. So instead, he goes for the sub. I know at this point I'm probably sacking Jirachi just to break the sub, hoping for no para, and I am able to break through the paralysis. He gets a full power focus punch off. That's gonna one hit KO. It just melts anything that doesn't resist it. It's ridiculous. We're currently tied 5-5. It's a good match. I'm going to bring in my lead Infernape again. And I know I've got some options here. I think at this point that he's going to go to Swampert. His Swampert is at full health and can stomach pretty much anything Infernape can do. I think he's predicting a fire move here. And at this point, he also knows I'm not carrying rocks because my Jirachi laid down rocks. He actually acknowledges later that he knows that I'm not carrying rocks because well, I think that was about Hippo, but still, he's aware that this is probably some sort of attacking Infernape. And he may even think at this point that it's choiced. So he is going to go to Rotom, which ends up being a smart move. If I had used Overheat, I would have killed it. And that certainly wouldn't have been great for him to lose his Rotom. But, maybe he didn't want to take 2 close combats and lose his Swampert. I'm not sure. Instead, he soaks up the close combat quite easily. I'm physically invested here, so I don't want to fire off an Overheat on what's likely a specially defensive Rotom. Most of them are, so they can handle Starmies. So I don't want to fire off an Overheat until I'm in Blaze range. I think this Infernape can still be useful, which in a way it is. So I'm going to go back to Hippo, who again, with the Thunder Wave Rotom, it's not going to be able to do much. It crits again. Again, I don't think the crit and the specially defensive drop. I don't think that one mattered all that much. I would have liked just one or the other. Honestly, it would have made my life easier. But I'm at this point hoping for a crit of my own. I don't want him to set up a substitute, which is what I'm afraid he's going to do. So I go for the Stone Edge here, which I carried. That way I'm not a sitting duck towards anything that is immune to ground type. But I miss. It doesn't matter. That does a very, very negligible damage to Breloom, and he heals it back with Toxic Boost anyways. So he gets Breloom out again for free. I'm going to soak up the Spore here. I'm pretty confident he's not going to use Seed Bomb, which often people will do, more often against Swampert than against Hippo, because it doesn't always kill Hippo, especially not a physically defensive one. But I'm just going to soak up the Spore here. I know Hippo will take that Spore like a champ. So I'm giving him a free sub here. I thought long and hard about this turn. I have a setup Mon, which you'll see, and I didn't really want to burn it this early, but I was thinking at this point, I really don't, Shaman's not coming in very easily on Breloom. It dies to a Focus Punch from behind sub. I don't want to sack my Shaman, which at this point I'm looking at as kind of my win condition. It can certainly handle the majority of his team if it gets in. So, I don't want to bring in Infernape. Infernape also handles his team pretty well if I can get it going, because he probably thinks it's choiced. And, I have coverage to handle all these Pokemon, especially a weakened Rotom at this point. So what do I do? Well, I go to Dragonite. Dragonite's a nifty answer to Breloom that aren't carrying Stone Edge. It resists fighting. It resists grass. So I come in. He's going to get the sub up. And he's going to go ahead and fire off a Focus Punch. This just shows, and this is a pretty bulky Dragonite too. I invested quite a bit of bulk. Look at what this half damage Focus Punch is going to do to him. That is 50%. That's a 2-hit KO. That's unbelievable. He brings in Jirachi after that. I soak it up, and I'm going to roost back up. I really do like this Roost Dragonite. It gives you a chance, especially if you can get a speed boost under your wing, it gives you a chance to soak up ice attacks that would normally be 4 times and are only 2 times. And you'll see that quite a bit throughout this match. So I'm going to heal up a little bit when his Jirachi comes in. I'm kind of waiting for a Thunder Wave here, and I was kind of surprised I didn't get it. He's going to go back to Swampert. I'm going to Earthquake there, and you can see with the Life Orb, I mean, that does pretty solid damage. 34% on a non-protect, so a leftover Swampert. It's a 4-hit KO. And so, at this point, I know he's going to hit me some Ice Beams. I don't really have anything on my team, though, that can soak up Ice Beams, I don't want to bring in Sleeping Hippo. That just lets him set up Breloom again. Shaman can't take 2 Ice Beams, so Infernape can certainly take an Ice Beam. That's kind of a short-sighted solution, though, to bring in Infernape, because even though it can handle 1 Ice Beam, it can't do much after that. The Swampert's going to be able to Earthquake, and I don't think a close combat's going to kill from this range. So You know, I think I end up roosting off a couple times here. You're going to see that, the 2 times damage Ice Beam isn't even really getting a net increase in damage. So at this point, I'm switching out to Infernape. Like I said, this is kind of short-sighted on my part. Like, I don't know what Infernape's going to do once it gets in here. But what it does do is get frozen immediately. I wish that fire types could use a fire move and break their freeze. It just makes sense. Like, why? I don't know. I don't know. I think honestly, fire type should be immune from freeze anyways. But that's an argument for Game Freak. I'll certainly take that up with their legal staff and see what I can do. In the meantime, I'm not going to complain too much about this freeze because again, I think I wasn't really that warranted to switch into Infernape anyway. But alas, he's got all the momentum now. Um, I'm going for the thaw. I mean, I figure at this point he's pretty much dead. Frozen Pokemon are pretty much useless, and he's going to go for a roar. I think he was anticipating me switching out there on the Earthquake. I probably could have gotten Dragonite in. I probably could have gotten Shaman in at that point, and he was just trying to rack up hazards damage. But he missed a good chance to at least just take that Infernape out, not take any chances. Dragonite's going to come in. I'm at 13% health. I know that I can roost stall him a little bit here, but that every time I do, he's taking back that leftovers health. So he is going to hit me with a 2 times Ice Beam and immediately freeze me. It's always rough to get frozen twice in one match, especially in such rapid succession. But again, I'm really not complaining. I think at the end of this match, you'll see that everything evens out. What I want to make note of this turn, this was quite a funny turn because immediately you'll see quite a few of our PSL members lamenting this play, remarking about how funny it is, and in one particular case, even pointing out that the game was over. I haven't not modal. The name sounds familiar. I can't say that he's really done anything this year that would cause me to know who he is, but he seems to think at this point that the game is over. I'm going to tell him, listen, it ain't over. It's never over. It's 5-on-5 right now. Yeah, I've got 2 Pokemon frozen, one of which is a below Stealth Rock's health Dragonite, but, it's an absolute amateur move to be calling good game when it's 5-5, especially given the game that he had just played not 10 minutes before this, where you'd swear that Modal's cat got a hold of the keyboard and just, kind of rolled around on the keys for the first like 6 turns of the match. It was ugly. But alas, I digress. Let's get back to the match where Dragonite is going to go ahead and thaw out right away. Actually, what helped, the freeze may have actually helped me because it got his Swampert out of there. And, I don't think Dragonite 1v1s that Swampert anyways, especially with him continuously taking back leftovers health. So I'm going to get that Roost off and get my Dragonite back to a respectable health. And he's like, oh crap, I shouldn't have switched out from Swampert. So I'm going to hit this thing with the Earthquake that would have killed Jirachi. And there's a massive crit. This was by far the biggest moment of RNG in the entire match. Because otherwise, he probably ends up taking down my Dragonite with this Swampert here. Although I could have released it or, weakened it. But instead now he's in 2-hit KO range. Another Earthquake's going to take him down. The Life Orb tick is certainly bringing me to quite low health here, to the point where he can go ahead and fire off an Iron Head on me. Certainly most Jirachis will invest enough speed to outspeed stuff like Tyranitar, Sizers, things of those, things in the 243 range, and that's exactly where my Dragonite was sitting. So he outspeeds me, takes me down with the Iron Head. Dragonite is another Pokemon I brought to handle his Jirachi because it has Inner Focus, which means it is immune to flinches. But I'm still kind of curious why he didn't paralyze me there. Or, maybe there's... No, I don't think... I think he just went for the kill, which is smart. So Melodic's going to come in now. Melodic is a nice Pokemon for absorbing status because it greatly increases its defense when that happens. And it's got quite a nice move pool. I quite like Melodic. I like the instant recovery. I like the oomph on offense. That was another nice crit. I think that crit certainly sped things up because this Jirachi doesn't have any healing moves. So he's going to go ahead and bounce out of there with that Jirachi. Probably not too wise of him to not at least go for a few leftovers ticks. At that point, you really need that Jirachi at a little higher health. to soak up an Earth Power from Shaman. But he's going to bring in Suicune and is probably thinking to himself, this is a good chance for me to set up Crocoon. Crocoon is Rest, Surf, Calm Mind, Sleep Talk. So it's a Crocoon. It only has one attacking move. It could certainly at this point. I'm not certain that it's Crocoon, but it seemed to be. I don't think he's going to Ice Beam on Melodic, so I bring in Shaman. And what I like about Shaman is Shaman's Seed Flare has the potential to drop special defense by 2 stages if it lands. And so it's very good at handling Calm Mind Suicune. If he had Ice Beam on this set, he probably is able to take my Shaman out here as I'm severely weakening him. But instead, I pretty much get the confirmation that it's Crocoon right here because he's going to rest. He's going to bounce out, go to Breloom, who certainly cannot soak up a Life Orb Seed Flare, and Shaman is going to take another victim. Now, at this point, Shaman is certainly looking good, but he's also quite low on health, to the point where Life Orb and Sandstorm are going to get me here in about 2 turns. So he's going to, at this point, he's probably anticipating taking advantage of this. He is hoping for a Seed Flare here, and he knows he can soak it up. He took about 74% damage from the last one, and well, to be fair though, that was at +1. But regardless, he's going to bring in Suicune, and he's going to try to bait me into taking the Life Orb damage. But I like to carry Rest on my Shaman. I think it's a great utility move to go in conjunction with Natural Cure. I don't know if I thought he was just going to burn a sleep turn there and try to sleep talk or something like that, or maybe he was going to switch out. All I knew is that it was a pretty safe rest for me, and that I could bounce out here. And sure, I'm giving him a sub, but at this point he's only got 1 sub left before he's out of health. So he takes the sub. He's under 25% health, which means you can't do another one. And I am once again at the whim and Becky of paralysis hacks. He hits me with a Thunderbolt, very strong, 50% damage, and I'm able to break through, get the Surf off, fantastic. Break his sub, knowing that all he can do right now is kill me. And kill me he shall. No, he bounces out. Where does he go? He goes to Suicune. Okay. I do have HP Electric on this Melodic. I don't know if I end up showing it. But I know at this point he's still got sleep turns left. He's got 2 sleep turns left. So I'm just going to bring my Shaman in for free. Shaman comes in and kills all 3 of his Pokemon without taking too much collateral damage. So I'm just going to kind of clean house here with Shaman. Love Life Orb Shaman. Such a great set. Such a great move pool. You're kind of walled based on what you go with your Hidden Power. I have Hidden Power Ice on this one. Hidden Power, which means Sizer can wall this. Some carry Hidden Power Fire, which means things like Gliscor can have a better chance against it, and Dragonite. But yeah, anywho, he's going to bounce around a little bit in an absolute vain attempt to prolong the match. But from 5-5 to a 4-0 with Shaman, certainly the MVP. I think that was one of my better performances in PSL history that I can remember. Certainly, Btooom is a very formidable opponent, and man, I was drenched in sweat after that one. That was very intense. I didn't give up after the freezes, but I didn't think I had a very good chance at that point. But you know what? When you stick to it and you never say never, and you don't make asinine statements like GG halfway through the match, then you can do a lot of things in Gen 4. That's what I love about this gen. That's what you guys should love about this gen too. So hope you guys enjoy your mid-season festivities. Enjoy your break. Can't wait to get back going in week 5. I'm up against Raptori. But I will not be doing my own match unless it is just the greatest match of all time. So I look forward to another commentary next week. But until then, I will see you guys later.